what's up, everybody, and welcome to the 50th episode of the Sports Blitz. That's right. It's taken us 3 years, but we have finally reached episode number 50. And as always, for the 50th time, I am Robbie. Doug is here. Doug, happy 50th, man. How are you?
Doing great, Robbie. Happy 50th to you, too. This is really going to be a great show. Everybody's going to want to listen to this one because we're going to do all kinds of stuff. We're going to talk about the history of the Sports Blitz, behind the scenes of the Sports Blitz, which is actually pretty funny. Exactly. And we're going to talk about maybe some future we have that we're considering and thinking about. So this is going to be a whopper of a show, man. There's not going to be a lot of. It's going to be a little sports, but not too much because we're celebrating our anniversary here. So.
Yeah. No, exactly right. And it has been pretty wild that we have reached 50 episodes. It's taken us long enough, but we have finally done it. And by the way, if you're just joining us, as we always say before every episode, if you're just joining us from under a rock or out of a cave or out skydiving out of a plane, I don't know, welcome. You might want to go back in at least until things quiet down a little bit. But it's
come out and tune into the show, man.
Yeah, tune into the episode and then go back in. There you go. You'll be in perfect shape. So I guess, Doug, let's start off with this. Let's sort of take the audience back here to 3 years ago, 2017, what we discovered, or what we sort of figured out, sort of time frame there. And so sort of, Doug, take us back from sort of your perspective, just sort of the initial, I'm not sure what the right word is, sort of the initial formation of the show, and sort of just take the folks at home through how we kind of decided to potentially do this and then started actually to do this. And, again, history, and now we're 50 episodes in.
Yeah, well, incredibly. Didn't realize we were going to get to 50, but really very cool. Actually, it started out with another show. If you really want to know the real formation of how we formed this, it actually started out with another show that Robbie and I weren't doing, but another show called On the Couch Talking Sports that Robbie and Kyle, by the way, you got to watch that too. It's awesome. It's great. Kyle is
shameless
fabulous.
Plug.
Shameless plug there. Absolutely. I'm going to plug your show.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Doug's been a guest several times, as we always keep.
Absolutely.
One of our favorite guests, for sure.
Love to be on the couch. And I'll tell you, it started out with that. And Robbie and I just happened to be, Robbie invited me to a BC basketball game, which, by the way, sucked. It was horrible.
BC sucked that day.
Yeah, BC was horrible.
Louisville
we got to see Rick Pitino.
Who was walking through the door that day,
That's right. He was walking through the door, but Robert Parrish was walking through the door. Larry Bird wasn't, and neither was Kevin McHale. Because they would look really old. Actually, Pitino looked really old, but we won't get into that.
No.
So it started off as at a basketball game, and because it was so bad, the basketball game itself, actually, after a while, I think we were rooting for Louisville really quietly.
Probably.
It was so bad, we just started kind of having a conversation and talking about, hey, maybe we should develop a show you don't have to have a name for it, but maybe we should develop a show and put it on and see where it goes. And just have fun with it. There it is. Because Robbie was doing the show with Kyle, I said to myself, why don't Robbie and I just do it? And when we first started doing the show, we started not on video. We started on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So we were
Which we're still on, by the way. We're still on SoundCloud.
Right, exactly. We're still on SoundCloud. But now we have video that's attached to it, which is even better because you get to see our expression.
I don't know. Some people might not want to see that, but
that's true. I did put some makeup on
I do want to say really quickly, I think actually remembering that first conversation, I think initially like it kind of started, I asked you about, because you had previous experience in radio. And so I think I
Yes.
was kind of like discussing with you what that was like, in terms of like sports radio. And then out of that kind of hatched the idea of, oh, let's maybe do a podcast together.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Emerson College. I spent 4.5 years on WECP, which is the teaching station. It was an AM station when I first went on it with the dials. It actually is not with dials anymore. It actually has moved to Tremont Street, and it actually is an FM. When I was there, it went FM also. I think at about 95, 96. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot. I learned a ton. And I did a radio show called Sports Spectrum, and it was fantastic. It was 4 or 5 of us in 2 different studios just talking about sports, and it was so cool. One of the guys, Steve Scalish, actually went on to do some traffic reporting for WBZ Radio. He went back to Philadelphia, where he's from, and he did some traffic down there, and now he's not in the industry anymore. But Steve and I had a great time, and we had a couple other, Bob and a couple other guys that joined us, and it was fun. It was really fun. I had a regular show, and then I had the Sports Spectrum show. So my regular shows were like 80s music and 80s and 90s and, stuff like that. I had a guy named Todd Grant, who was a friend that I met there, and he worked at a radio station down in Rhode Island, and he got me all these what they call liners. So these big voice guys just saying my name, and made my show sound really professional. So again, that's kind of where I've never done professional radio before. I guess you can call this professional radio, since it's kind of amateurish, but it's professionalness. But it was
I
really
don't know if
fun.
anybody
So
would call this professional.
well, it's it's not college radio, so I can't
Sure,
call it college, and it's not professional, so it's somewhere in the middle. But that's kind of where you asked me about my experience in that, and then we just got talking about sports and talking about how we can kind of see if we can put this together and what would it be, what would it sound like, and we really didn't know up front, right, Robbie? We had no idea.
We were trying to figure out over the first episode, how exactly are we going to record this? Like, what are we gonna do?
That was the biggest problem we had.
Yeah, like, how do we do this? We I remember we literally, I mean, we still do this up until recently, when we used music at the beginning of our episodes. We literally would just pull the clips off of YouTube and just play them straight through. We basically were recording live, and we still kind of do record live pretty much the entire show. What you guys see is not really all that edited. I just press record. Again, so we're going behind the scenes. I press record, and then we started talking. So it's really sort of taped to live, every single time. And it's kind of funny because like Doug and I have known each other, have been friends for years. I mean, before starting the Sports Blitz, we've talked about Rivers and the fact that we met, when Doug came back to be a counselor at Rivers back in the sort of middle 2010s. And we like to poke fun at each other, but we definitely have sort of formed this just sort of bond over sports, and we always texted about sports and.
Well, we also work together at Rivers, so we talked about sports all the time with one of our recent guests. So
George, yes,
George.
Shout out George.
We talk sports every morning at 8:40, 8:45 before everything started, maybe even 8:30, depending. And of course, there was one counselor that came in like at 9:05 and said he wasn't late anytime. And he wasn't really late. We knew he was late. Anyway, we won't talk
Gerald,
about him right
excuse
now.
me.
Yeah, we won't mention his name. But that's where our sports, not even our sports knowledge, but our love of sports came from probably a little time ago. But doing a show, it was, we've already talked about these, sports all the time. Why don't we bring it to a different medium?
I mean,
You know,
basically, I feel like our show has a lot to do with like yours. Doug, I mean, we communicate about sports like on a daily basis, like offline. We're
texting
texting,
all day sometimes.
calling, all that stuff. So I feel like this show is kind of like us bringing our basically like daily sports communication into a compacted like 1 to 2 hour episode. Every week or every couple weeks or every few months, like it was at some points.
Yes.
Um, but no, it's just been amazing, an amazing run that we have had here these first 50 episodes. And so and I feel like you said, the first few episodes, we were kind of like trying to feel things out, sort of figure out how this was going to go. And but we just kept rolling with it. We kept like making adjustments and stuff like that. We kept, sort of, making changes that we thought would make the show even better, and it has. And I feel like
That's the question I was going to ask you, Robbie.
yeah,
Do you think we're getting better? I really do.
I think so. Yeah, I think from where we were, episode number 1 to episode 50, I think we've made
goodness,
a tremendous amount of
50,
progress, and I feel like each episode, we've really we just settle into a rhythm, and we've sort of carved out our own sort of niche in terms of how we sort of how we do things. And I mean, a lot of it is just like we just are having fun. We're just enjoying, for that 1 to 2 hours, just chatting about sports and just giving each other shit too. Because basically,
exactly.
if you don't know Doug and I well, if you see us together, like in person or back in the day at Rivers, we would just give each other shit the entire time. Like we literally, I mean, we had this thing. We have this running joke that we still do to this day. We're just called direct hit. We'll just like whack each other on the arm and go direct hit. And it's the funniest thing ever. But that's just sort of swear word. I don't, this is
Just get out there.
yeah, not a family show.
It is. It's just a word. That's all.
Just a word.
It's not a big deal. And what we're doing now is again something that we'll bring up behind the scenes in a little bit. But yeah, I just think we're I think we're totally. I think we're not only getting it. I think every show that we do, I think we're having more and more fun doing it.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that, number one, it's not like we're improving. It's just like we kind of decide, okay, we're doing Wednesday, we're doing Thursday, we're doing what day and what time, and sometimes Robbie has umpiring thing he's got to do, or sometimes I'm eating dinner and I need to go a little bit later or whatever. So we decide on the time, we decide on the day, and then all of a sudden and not to talk about behind the scenes yet, but because we'll get to that in a little bit in our next segment, but it's all about the anticipation of getting to where we are right this very moment. And I think it gets better and better and better each time.
Yeah.
My personal thing is that I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Because this is my radio. This is my radio.
Same.
I have talked to a professor that I had. Her name is Donna Helper. She actually founded Rush in America. If you want to know the story, just throw me on YouTube. Throw me whatever. Whatever you do, and
comment, message, something.
Yeah, message me somehow, and I'll tell you the whole story. But anyway, I asked her about radio, and I asked her how do I get back? Can I get back? I mean, can I do it? And she's like, radio has lost all its creativity. They tell you what to say. They tell you what to do. There are certain things that you can say and not say. You say one thing that's wrong. One thing that turns people into a different attitude, or you say your opinion and you talk about it in a certain way, you could be kicked off the air so quickly because there are censors and there are people that may not like what you say, or there are program directors that are listening to the show to make sure that you're not saying anything that's wrong. You can't swear on the air. You can't, they bleep it out. You know, there's a lot of restrictions that you have on the air when you're on regular radio. Right. When you're on something like this, there isn't. There's a little bit here and there. We try to keep it, to a family show. We don't swear a whole lot, and we want, kids to want to watch with our friends, kids, or whatever. But the fact is that there's so many restrictions. I didn't want to have those restrictions. What she told me is that radio is totally morphing and changing every day. It was with mom and pops, and now it's going toward it went toward the big companies. CBS owns everything, and now I think it's going back. And now there's satellite radio, and there's Sirius radio, which is satellite. There's streaming
online
radio.
I was about to say online radio, just all these different.
I have online radio on my phone.
Yeah.
I have a radio. It's called radio.com.
Yeah.
You can listen to any kind of podcast that you ever can possibly think of, and that's where people are going. They're not listening to, and you got iTunes, you have Amazon Music. Well, why go to the store and get your favorite record when you can get it right on your phone?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So again, music and radio and talk radio is never going anywhere. Talk radio is always going to be around because there's always going to be some insomniac that wants to listen. WBZ is a perfect example of a radio station that they talk all the time. There's talk there all the time, and news. So people want to hear that. That's why it's so popular.
Yeah.
Never going anywhere. It's just a different way of putting it out. So that's why we're doing this, because it's a different way of putting sports out.
Oh yeah. No, and I think that's the thing is we definitely, the nice thing, especially, obviously this pandemic has been, crazy in a lot of negative ways, but I actually think, I hate to say it, but kind of one of the positives that it's done for us, sort of being forced to kind of
brought us on video.
Record from home, is the fact that we're now sort of able to expand our media capabilities to sort of more platforms. Before we were just on SoundCloud, now we're on SoundCloud, we're on YouTube. We definitely have been using all along, before and now, social media to our advantage, Twitter, Facebook, all these different platforms, and now we're starting to expand into guests, and really, we'll talk about sort of our guests, the guests we've had so far here coming up in just a moment, but it's true. I mean, it really is. The nice thing is, obviously, there's a lot of good things about radio shows, but one of the good things I think about doing a podcast is there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of freedom in it. There's a lot of freedom to kind of, really, you choose your own content, basically, and you can sort of adapt and change at your own whim. I think one of the nice things is, you're right, we do talk, for those of you who have been listening all along or watching all along with us, we are a very current events based show in the sports world, and as many of you know, the sports world is changing on a daily, even a minute, secondly basis. And so there's a lot of times where we'll come in for a show, and just before the show happens, something happens, and quickly we kind of sort of insert it into our outline for that episode. And it's nice to sort of have that ability, have that freedom to be able to, minute, secondly basis.
That's the word.
You knew what
That's
I
great.
meant. You knew what I meant.
I know what you meant. It's funny. That's all. I mean, this is what we do.
This is. I think
a perfect example.
Honestly, some of the funnest moments that we have is just when we just kind of go off the rails and just sort of have those moments where we just kind of break down and fits of laughter.
Rob, definitely. When Robbie just goes off because he's pissed off about something or upset or whatever,
Yeah, for those of you who
those are
know me,
great.
know like I don't. The other thing is like I don't rant all that much. So what I do, it's kind of like
Oh, it's
it's
funny. Oh,
entertaining.
it's so funny. It's so funny. It's so great. He gets all
Yeah,
red in the face.
yeah,
He doesn't typically look at the camera. He's just so,
yeah. I'm just in
it's
my
just great.
I'm in my own world. It's just.
Exactly.
But
Exactly. But yeah.
yeah, no, it's just been such a great experience, and I want to sort of segment in here to sort of looking back at these first 49 episodes that we've done, Doug. Are there, and let's sort of start. We kind of were starting at the beginning. Talking about how we sort of decided on this show and sort of turned it into something. The early episodes, like sort of what was sort of the thought process, like at least from your perspective, as we started getting into it and just sort of going from sort of episode to episode there early on, just sort of what initial thoughts, I guess, sort of went through your mind as we started this and started, getting a few episodes under our belts?
I think it was I think it was preparation. And I'm not talking about preparation H. I'm talking about preparation. Just regular
Preparation
everyday
A, just
preparation.
random product drop, No,
Random,
wait.
I have no idea why I brought it up. It just, I don't know why it comes to my head. It's just things come to my head sometimes.
The funny thing is, before you even said that, as soon as you said preparation, that's the first thing that came to my mind. So
See, everybody, when you think about that word, they go to the next level on that word.
yeah.
So I think it was, I think we were all about just like being prepared. Being prepared for every episode. And kind of being able to know about the sports. And hey, let me tell you, we don't know everything about every sport. Okay, we just don't. Even the major sports, sometimes we have to look up on our phone. Okay, because we do. We're not. We got we have other things that we do during the day. So sometimes we don't have. I mean, I have notifications on probably 12 different things that give me sports. Great. So I have knowledge throughout the day. But it's preparing to present that knowledge,
Right.
is what we tried to do, and we wanted to make it not on a format where we're just like, okay, so the sports today is going to be just boring. We didn't want to be boring. We wanted to be real. We wanted to be us, Doug being Doug and Robbie being Robbie.
Yeah.
And being able to present it in a way where, number one, it's fun to listen to. Number two, we go off the rails and be funny and be silly, and it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I like the other station that we were talking earlier about, EI versus the other station. The one you listen to, and I used to listen to that one too. I find that WEI, and I'm going to mention them anyway because we don't have any connection to them. WEI is really funny. I mean, they try to be. They present it in a really great way, but they present it in a way where if they go off the rails, they go off the rails, and it's okay. They come back. That's part of being semi-professional. Is that as long as you go off the rails a little bit, go ahead, laugh. But then, as long as you come back, you're good.
And we always do too.
Yeah, of course we always come back. Even if it's at the end of the episode, we're always coming back.
Yeah,
we're always coming back.
Yeah.
So I think we didn't want to make it stiff and coming back. Welcome back. I don't know. So we didn't want to make it stiff. We didn't want to make it in a way where we're presenting and people are like, why are they doing it?
We're just droning. We don't want to be droning
dry.
on.
We don't want to be dry. We don't want to be droning on about scores. We're not going to do scores. We're not the
baseball today.
Baseball. The Red Sox.
Yeah.
We didn't want to be like that. What we wanted to do was have a platform of conversation.
Yeah.
just put it out there. Have a conversation about sports. We bring a guest on, Kyle, and a whole bunch of other people that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. When we bring those people on, we want to know from them what they think about the Bruins, the Celtics, the Red Sox, the Patriots, the college stuff, the college sports, river sports, semi-pro. We want to know about what they think about what we're talking about. Or they bring up a topic, and then we talk about it. So we, I think it was more that we wanted to kind of throw it out there and see if it sticks, and it did. And we have a format. We'll talk about that in a few minutes too. We have a little format, and we'll talk about kind of the behind the scenes of what we do and stuff like that. But that's a great question, Robbie, about what we thought about in the first few. First of all, we're trying to get the technology down.
Yeah.
Figure out,
what the
is this
hell
recording? Is this recording? And let me tell you.
Can you hear me now?
I'm not going to even tell you. We're going to talk about behind the scenes, and the behind the scenes stuff may get Robbie a little heat out under the collar. But what we try to do is we try to kind of mix it up a little bit. And I think the first few episodes, if you listen to the first few on SoundCloud, you'll kind of notice that we may be a little bit, I can't say nervous, but we are a little stiff because we haven't molded. We didn't mold what the Sports Blitz was going to be.
Yeah.
And what we wanted to continue to be.
Right.
So if we went off the rails on episode 7 or 10, we were like, oh, that's really cool. We don't care about that. But in the first few, we were like, okay, well, this is what it is, and let's talk about that. And so let's really do it.
And sometimes I feel like the best part are like when we kind of like bounce around. Like, yeah, we do have like, again, not to get too much of the behind the scenes, we do have like an outline that we, sort of have going into most of our episodes. Maybe some of the special ones we kind of do a little bit more like free flowing, but like most of the time we do have an outline. But sometimes we'll like bounce around the segments of that outline, just completely go off script about something different. Those are some of the best parts.
Exactly, and we've also morphed it into something more than it was when we first started.
Yeah,
we've morphed it into going off the rails. We've morphed it into guests. We've morphed it into playing some games too that I kind of brought to the table and you brought to the table. We've morphed it into that, and some of that stuff is like awesome that we never even thought that we were going to even, number one, be able to do, and number two, this is how you morph a show, is trying to figure out, you have to make it your own. And this is kind of how we came about it. How we morphed it together was trying to see what works and what doesn't work. And then just kind of going with that. Right. But also having a background of trying to figure out the planning and the process that goes with it. Because there is, slightly, but there is. But that's kind of how we kind of put it together. But it has morphed into like, whoa, wait a minute, what? What's going on here? What is that? That was really cool.
Yeah. Or trying this, oh, let's try this. Oh, that actually kind of looks pretty, that kind of seems pretty cool. Let's keep going with that. Or
and we both are starting to get ideas where I had an idea of doing a game. I don't even know how many episodes it was ago. And I said, hey, Robbie, I got this sports game off of the sports video station. It was really cool. They talked about whatever, and it was really cool. It was a cool game. Let's do it. And he's like, yeah, why not? Let's do it. And it worked out. And we've done several since then. So
I think that's the
table,
right. I think that's the great thing about this is that we're both very open to kind of like trying new things and stuff like that. Like when one of us brings an idea to the table, we always seem to be very open to at least discussing it and giving it a shot. The one thing I kind of want to get on, sort of go to the good stuff, the behind the scenes and the guest stuff and stuff like that. But is there? I guess I'll start for me first on this one is that one of the moments of the first 50 episodes that really sticks out for me is when we were talking, I forget what brought it up, but we were talking about baseball and some proposed rule changes and stuff like that. And
I remember that.
I just absolutely.
But that was on SoundCloud. We were sitting on your couch, right?
Yeah.
Because I actually moved about 5 feet.
I literally went off on like a 2+ minute rant about why that idea was just the most barnacles idea that I had ever heard in my entire life. By the way, it's an idea that they're using this season for extra inning games, which is don't even get me started. We're not going to
guys. He was crazy today. He was absolutely crazy. I literally moved. He had a big couch. He's still got a big couch. He had a really big. It was a couch, but it was big. I literally moved to the other side of the couch.
Yeah,
it was like, whoa, dude, what are you doing?
But that definitely, I feel like that.
It was fun.
That kind of says the bit. What I wanted to ask you is sort of, are there like a couple of memories, like specific bits or anything like that, like sort of stand out above the rest when you sort of think back on the first 49 episodes?
Yeah, I just want to say in conjunction with what you just said, this can happen unbelievably. Robbie, when you had gone off about rule changes and stuff like that, we decided that night or even the next day, I think it might have been the next day, we were talking on text, and we decided to actually do a show that had to do with rule changes in sports.
That's right.
So what can happen is that one thing, Robbie goes off like a crazy man. I wish we had recorded it like we're doing now, because it would have been really funny to do that.
Well, no, it's on one of the episodes. It's on one of the episodes.
I know, but I thought that was a SoundCloud episode, not a video.
Oh, yeah. No, it was just.
No, you could still hear it. I just don't think you could see it. I just think if you saw that, it would be even extra funny because of the fact that you'd see Robbie's face. He was like a tomato. It was incredible. His face just got really red, and oh my gosh, I moved over 5 feet. So that's what can happen, and I love that. Robbie could mention one thing, and all of a sudden, or talk about one thing, and it's like, oh, we can put that into a whole episode. Bang, done. Let's do it. What sort of memories? I think I really like maybe the first 10 episodes we did, and I think the reason I like them is because they're not my favorite episodes, but I like them, and the reason I like them is because this was the start of where we are today. This was the start of something that we never knew was going to even make it. The reason it took us 3 years is because there were times that we would spend that you weren't available, I wasn't available, and we just couldn't get together. And the driving was, I was driving to your house and you drove to my house, and there was just a lot of logistics that had to go along with it. And sometimes, we were both working and we were tired and we didn't want to do it, or whatever it was. And it's not that we didn't want to do it. It's just we did, but we were tired. And
life got in the way.
Life got in the way a little bit. And sometimes there was weeks and weeks before we did the next episode.
Yeah.
And that's why it took us so long, excuse me, to get to 50.
Right.
So I think the first 10 was really cool because we were figuring it out. We're still figuring it out, but we're figuring it out on a totally different level now. Now we got episodes under our belt to be able to look at and work on, and I look at them. I sometimes watch them once or twice.
Oh, yeah.
And see what I'm doing, see how I can get better, and see how we can maybe something said that we didn't realize was said, and we're like, oh, wow, that could be a show. So that's how we look at it. But I like the start because that's what kind of morphed us to where we are now. I think in the early episodes, I think some of my favorite episodes is probably, yeah, when we just talked about. I think the theme shows were probably my most favorite because just talking about the sports is okay, but some of the theme shows that we had, we talked about, different kinds of things, and sometimes there was an episode that we did. I don't think we even talked about sports. It was rivers.
Yeah.
There was a rivers episode, I think, early on. I think we talked about that for a little bit. So those kinds of episodes kind of morphed us to where we are now.
Yeah.
I really like those first 5 to 10 that kind of got us to where we are.
No, definitely. And your sort of comment about, looking back through episodes and sort of finding clips of like, oh, that's really cool, stuff like that, kind of actually segues pretty well into what I want to talk about next, and that is sort of the guests of the Sports Blitz. The first 3 guests, we've had 3 guests so far, and I think the thing about the 3 guests the 3 guests we've had right off the bat, is that all of them have sort of been special and been like really sentimental to us in like some form or another. Like every guest has a story. Like, the first guest we had was Kyle, who, as Doug mentioned, I'm on another show with him on a couch talking sports. Doug's appeared many times, so we thought, you know what, we want to bring. Doug and I sort of discussed it, and we said, we want to start to bring some guests onto the sports, but then Kyle was sort of the perfect sort of initial guest to have, just because the connection there with the sport, with On a Couch talking sports. So just it was a perfectly natural.
And I've been with those guys. I've been on the show. I don't know, half a dozen times.
You were on like one of our big episodes, like one of our milestone
200
episodes. 200. Yeah, you're on 200 episode.
200th episode I was on it, and let me tell you, I loved it, and it was just awesome because we're all sitting there. We kind of all have the same kind of thing that we're talking about, and it's just great. I love Kyle because he's he knows a little about sports.
Yeah, I was about to say
just enough
to get by, but at the same time,
and I'm not dissing him.
No.
But I love the fact that he puts sports into other things that he's interested in.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Movies. I mean,
movies and
that was the whole episode
we
did. That was the whole episode we did with him, was sports, movies, and video. Yep. It was the perfect fit because he could have gone on for like 12 hours talking about that subject matter.
That was one of our theme shows. Yep.
And then the next one that we had was Jamie Rice, which is a really cool backstory and kind of taking you a little bit behind the scenes here as well in this, is that obviously if you listened back particularly to our Rivers, for the first Rivers themed episode that we did, kind of is what started the ball rolling on this, because Doug went to Rivers with Jamie Rice. They were campers and CITs together, and Doug has told me this story about Jamie Rice, hundreds of times over the years, just in passing, and it finally made it from sort of like discussion to content in that Rivers episode where Doug, actually brought it up on the air. And again, just sort of going behind the scenes here for a minute, that was sort of one of those moments where I sort of went back and I was like, you know what? If I can, clip this, if I can find this clip and post, let me find this clip and post it and just see, if I get any sort of response, about it. So I posted it to Twitter. Actually, if you go look on my Twitter page, you can find it. It was a video clip of Doug talking about Jamie Rice and the G-ball story, where Jamie Rice, for those of you who haven't heard it, basically kicked a G-ball basically out of the gym at the Rivers school that we were playing G-ball. And a great story. Every time I hear it, I absolutely love it. So back to sort of the behind the scenes. So I put it out, and some time goes by. I'm like, maybe he didn't see it, or just busy guy or whatever. It's okay. I put it out there. You know, it is what it is. All of a sudden, I get a message, a direct message from Jamie Rice himself, going like, "Hey, Robbie, you know, just saw the clip, loved it. You know, thank you so much. Loved hearing of, you know, sort of reminiscing about Rivers and G-ball." And so I sort of took my shot. Yeah, go Beavers. I sort of took my shot. And I was like, you know, listen, you know, we have this podcast that we do. Yeah, I know you're busy, but you know, would you be interested in coming on being a guest? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. You know, let me know. And so, you know, fast forward, I think it was just a couple weeks later, maybe, you know, 2 or 3 weeks later, we had him on as our second guest. And it was awesome. It was so awesome just to like, first of all, it's the first time, it's, you know, the biggest sort of personality that I've ever interviewed. By the way, I mean, I've never interviewed a college coach at any level, or really a coach at any level before. So to be able to interview him, someone who had grown up, you know, going to Babson hockey games and seeing him coach and stuff like that was just awesome. And just to, you know,
Not a bad pillow polo player either.
I can imagine.
Mr. Hockey.
Yeah. But just,
yeah, he used to knock me over a lot.
But just to you know, hear that, you know, those two, I just kind of, for several times during that episode, just kind of sat back and just listened, and just, you know, listen to those two reminisce and tell great stories about back in the day at Rivers, and we kind of all sort of feeded in our experiences, and then to hear, you know, be able to ask them questions, you know, about Babson hockey, and sort of get sort of behind the scenes look at, you know, some of these things, you know, that you sort of see from an outsider's point of view, but now sort of get the, you know, my favorite part was, you know, being able to ask him about Fenway, because I mean, you know, just to get sort of an insider's perspective on playing a hockey game at Fenway Park was just awesome. And just to hear those stories, I mean, it was just fantastic. It really was. And, you know, just to sort of be able, you know, again, just to, you know, have him be so open to like come on and, you know, talk with us was just amazing. And before I throw it to the last one, Doug, you know, just any comments you want to throw in on, you know, on Jamie Rice as well, because obviously you played a big role in him coming on our show for sure.
No, that's great. Yeah, he was fabulous. I mean, he was very gracious. Come on.
Yeah.
We reminisced about Rivers, which by the way he loves doing, which is great.
Oh yeah. I didn't
That's
know
one
that
of
he
the
went to
things that
school
attracted
there.
him. Yeah.
By the way, I didn't know that he went to school there until he was actually on the episode.
I didn't either. I didn't realize. I probably knew, but I probably didn't. I probably didn't remember.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And I mean, I knew him when I was a kid, probably 11, 12 years old. So it's one of those things, and I haven't seen him since then, since he left to go and do whatever he needed to do. So I haven't seen him in 30 plus years, I'm sure. So it was really, really cool talking to him and talking to him about Rivers. I think the best thing that really came out of it is that we actually have an audience that we didn't really know about. And we know about it now, because what happened is that we put the episode up.
Yeah.
And I in particular notified Wendy Schreider, who is Ed Schreider's daughter. Ed Schreider is who I've known since I was 10 years old. Ed Schreider started out in this past year would have been like 51 years at camp. Unbelievable. What a career he's had there. But Ed was the boys' head when I was the boys' head counselor when I was a camper. And again, he's known me since I was at least 10, 11 years old. And I contacted Wendy and said, "Hey, Wendy, you're not going to believe this, but we're doing a Rivers episode. You got to watch this." Well, it turns out that I'm not sure if you sent it, but somebody had
No,
sent it to Ed.
she forwarded it to
She
him.
forwarded
Yes.
it to him. She forwarded the episode to Ed. Ed and then watched it and then forwarded it to Jim Navoni, Jim Strider, his brother, who's also know me. He was my CIT guy. I had a CITs at the time. So forwarded to him. Forwarded to Mark Iarusi, who was a middle camp counselor and then went to woodworking for a while. And did fishing, I guess, for a while too there. And Dick Morse, who did sailing for most of the time there, and I think he did a few other things. I think he was CIT, head of the CITs for a while also, but he also did sailing for a long time. I knew my brother Josh, who also went to Rivers. So that episode in turn, and then Ed wrote you, Robbie, a really, really nice email.
Yeah.
And it was forwarded to me, and we struck gold that day. Not only did we have our first real interview of an actual hockey coach from an actual college, which is really cool. Somebody who I've known for a long time but haven't talked to in 30 years. But we also now have a small bit of an audience that's starting to grow a little bit with other people. And to have that gratification of Ed sending the email saying how wonderful the episode was. It was great to hear all the stuff about Rivers again and how we're continuing to keep Rivers alive, is what he said, because he put his heart and soul into Rivers, and it made sense that that's what he was trying to do, and he did that. So it's one of those things where having that email, because you don't get that all the time. In I don't know, 40 some odd episodes, we didn't get any feedback. We haven't heard that much from people, except people that have listened. I have friends that listen occasionally, most of the time, and they give me feedback. A guy up in New Hampshire that we know and stuff like that. The family friends listens every once in a while, and he gives me feedback every once in a while too. But again, we don't get letters. We don't get emails. It just doesn't happen. By the way, if you want to email us, please do.
Yeah.
Because we would like to hear from you.
Even just drop us a comment somewhere.
Yeah, just drop us a comment. Make sure it's clean though. Anyway, because we'll say it on the air. No, what I'm saying is it was so gratifying to have, not just to have Jamie on and to have our first professional interview, which is great, and talk about Rivers, because we went to Rivers for a long time. He went for a long time. I went for a long time. It's just gratifying to have somebody listen to our episode and to comment on it in a positive way. It was just awesome. It fueled me to like, okay, all right, now we got Jamie on. Who's next?
Well, I'm about to go on to who's.
I know, and that's why I'm segueing.
Perfect segue. Yeah, perfect segue into our most recent guest. Yeah, I think, and listen, I loved having Kyle on. I loved having Jamie Rice on. But I gotta say, from a personal point of view, that our most recent guest was the most special of all to me. I'm gonna be completely honest. Our buddy George, who, longtime Rivers counselor, just big time role model to me, as my counselor, and then as coach
to a lot of people,
was with him to a lot of people. I mean, just an amazing guy, and just to be able to to have him on the episode was great. Just to be able to chat with him and just see him, even in the context of a Zoom video box, because I hadn't seen him. Yeah, I hadn't seen him since since the last summer of camp, which was what 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
I mean, it had been that long, and I tried emailing with him a few times, but we hadn't really, there hadn't been a whole lot of communication just for various reasons. Nothing bad, just other communication related things. But just to be able to talk to him and reminisce, and just to express to him like how much he meant to me, like as a role model and as like someone that I, from my time being a counselor, I mean being a camper of his to that being a co-counselor, how much I looked up to him, just to be able to like express that to him, like it was just amazing. And it's like it was just when, as soon as I found out like Doug had run into him and like had got his number and like he got in contact that he was interested in being on the show, like it was
This was a long time ago, by the way, when I ran into it.
it was amazing.
It was
a
about
long
a year and a
process.
half, maybe 2 years ago.
It was a
year and a half
process, but just to be
it
able,
was
like I said, just to be able to have him on, it was just, it was so special, and like, and to Doug's point again, you know, we had Ed commented on that recording, you know, just sort of talking about how
and
awesome
sent it to the same
was.
people I talked about before.
Yeah, and then even just my, you know, my, you know, sort of age group, you know, I sent it to, you know, Andrew Navoni and Stuart McKenzie and, you know, guys that, you know, went to camp with me and all that, and they loved it. I mean, even just, I think the most special moment didn't even have anything to do with me, but just to, you know, live on the episode, to have you like bring your wife and daughter over to like just say hi to George live on the episode was like, that was really awesome. And like that made it all so worth it. And like even, you know, like my sister and my mom who, you know, knew George from, you know, my sister went to Rivers, and you know, my mom, you know, got to know George for, you know, for us going to Rivers. I mean, just for everybody to be able to watch and like, yeah, it was just such a like special, sentimental, you know, experience, and
It felt right.
It was awesome. It was just
felt
awesome.
right. Felt right just to talk to him. That's the first thing, and for him to reminisce about the stuff that.
And he was just classic George.
Yeah, you have to understand.
He was so classic. He was so classic George. Like the whole thing, like about, you know, you ask him, you started on the episode. I was like, the first 4 times I was like, oh, how long is your show and stuff like that. Like that's just classic George.
how long? He didn't realize that we were recording, and he says the first words out of his mouth were, how long is your show?
Yeah, it was hysterical.
George, we're recording. We're recording.
We're on the air, George.
But it was so great because that classic. Is so George. Like, absolutely. How much time do I have to spend with you people?
No, it was.
No. He loved it. He loved it. He had a great time, and I actually got to call him, but just check in with him. But it did take me. I think it took me about 2 weeks of being a little aggressive and calling him almost every other day, just to see if he could come on and when could he come on, and it was gratifying for me because we had the conversation and he finally agreed that he wanted to come on, and that he was like, oh, do I get to see Robbie? I'm like, yeah, it's a Zoom call, you get to see Robbie. He said, yeah, oh, come on, no problem.
That was awesome.
And again,
that was just amazing.
He actually told me, and he actually told me that in April he was very sick. He got COVID-19. He got the virus. He was very sick. He actually was in the hospital, and he was out. He was out for a good 2 weeks and had no recollection of what went on. Wow. All he remembers is a couple of things, and nobody knew he was even in there. His sons didn't know he was in there because he was on the street and he felt weird, and he went into the hospital that day and he didn't come out for 2 weeks. And he was very close to not making it. And we were just thankful.
like that tugged at my heart. Like when you told me that, I was like, because.
Yeah, he did when he told me, Rob.
Like,
practically in tears when he told me.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him in 3 years, but just like, it's like one of those people that like you feel okay just knowing that like they're still in this world with you, like somewhere they are out there. So like yes. the thought of like there being a world with no George in it, just like that that got to me when you told me that. Like
George is the kind of person, and this is my impression of George. George is the kind of person that he's the kind of person that once you get with him, get with him, and you're his friend for life.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care. He's a caring guy. He cares about. He's been in the Boston public school system for a really long time as a truant officer. He's been there for a long time. He actually worked in a prison even longer ago, which I didn't even
high
know.
school basketball coach for a
That's
long
correct.
time.
And did basketball and was a counselor at Rivers. And that's where we met him. Yeah. And just our sports talk. Just our sports talks in the morning, before camp started. Him just railing about some guy.
Kelly Olynyk, yeah.
Anybody. It didn't matter what it was. I mean, George would say the craziest things too, and he would back it up. He would say, I think Jason Tatum is going to be an all-star. He's going to be the best. He's going to be MVP, and he's going to win, 7 championships. That's George. That's just his opinion, and that's just what it is. But he's a genuinely just a great guy to talk to. He's very knowledgeable, by the way, about everything.
Yeah,
he knows everything about everything, and just to be in his presence again. And even just to talk to him on the phone, he just makes you smile when he talks to you. Well, I had to tell the story, Rob, because it's hilarious. This is so typical George. I'm talking to him, and I said, "You want to, join the show? Want to be in the?" "Oh yeah, sure, Doug. I would love to join the show, man. Absolutely. Can you hold on just a minute?" And all of a sudden, I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he's got his phone with him, but I hear he said. And then I hear him. He must have put the phone. He was driving, so he must have put the phone down. I think he was in the line to get food or something, because he put the phone down, and it must have been. I could still hear him. So he must have put it like next to him on the seat next to him, and all I heard was, "Hey, Doug, just wait a minute. I'm getting some chicken." Like what?
You told me that. Yeah, you told me that. Yeah,
George, he must have put me on speaker too, because I said, "George, what are you doing?" And then I hear him talking to the girl, the girl who was at the window, because he said, "Oh yeah, you're wearing that Cam Newton shirt. Yeah, he's gonna be really good." He starts talking sports with the girl he doesn't even know, who's about to serve him the food. Yeah, but this is, you gotta understand, this is George. This is perfect George. And I was just sitting on the phone. I had a big smile on my face. I was like, that's just, it was just hilarious. I wish I had a tape recorder, because it would have been really funny just to play it on the air.
Yeah.
But again, it was so special to have him on, and to have him be a part of what we had at Rivers, which was so special anyway. But just to be able to talk sports with him again, and to see him, and to see that he's fine and he's doing really well. He doesn't have any long lasting kind of issues that come with it, which is great, and he's really doing very well now. And I can't say enough about how wonderful. And again, it was very gratifying, because it did take me a while. It took me about 2.5 to 3 weeks of calling him and kind of, seeing when he was available and that kind of thing. And it was very gratifying to be able to have him on.
Oh, it was fantastic. And like I said, to all our guests, I mean, it was great to have them on. Just so many special memories just from each episode. And yeah, I've gone back multiple times and watched all 3 of those episodes back. And we're definitely going to have more guests coming on in the future. I mean, it's just, we have some plans in the pipeline. So that is for sure. So the thing I kind of want to do now is I kind of want to get into sort of the behind the scenes stuff, because the behind the scenes is pretty
we should
cool.
Do a whole episode of behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, Doug, let me let you start off. And sort of, if there was one to sort of start the ball rolling here, if there was one particular thing off the bat, sort of behind the scenes, that you would want our viewers to sort of know about, what would that be?
I think the one thing behind the scenes is maybe, well, I think it's related. The one thing I'm going to say is related to the second thing I'm going to say.
Okay.
So, as Robbie said before, what we do is we figure out, I'll even tell you right after the episode that we're going to have right now. We'll do a little. We'll cut we'll stop the recording, and then we'll start talking. We'll start talking about next week. Okay, when are we available next week? When can we do next? Can we do next week? When are we available? Wednesday, Thursday. What are we doing? So, what relates to it is that. So who's hosting? Okay, do you want to host? What am I going to host? Is it my turn? Is it your turn? And then what we do is we actually put together, and we actually put together an outline of what we're going to do. Now, the outline sometimes, actually most of the time, has absolutely nothing to do with the show whatsoever. Most of the time it does, and we stay on course. But sometimes we, again, go off the rails.
Right.
But we have an outline that we kind of follow. And sometimes we write down some questions, like for George.
I actually have, just so you know, I have sort of right here. I don't know if the folks can. It's kind of tough to tell on my camera. I think
Yeah, I actually have one too. This is the Sports Blitz episode 49.
This is 48.
Yeah, this is 49 right here. So
I think it looks backwards on. I don't know why it's backwards on my camera, but
I know I'm not sure either. But this is episode 49 right here, and of course I marked it down because I was the one who was the
hosting.
We mark it down and we host it, and then see we have everything written down, and I actually had some answers to some questions and stuff like that. So again, we actually. Needless to say, it might not sound like it.
We
actually pretty.
We do plan.
Prepared for what we're going to say.
Prepare for these, which is scary when you think.
And it's not just written down, Robbie. We have an outline. I send it to you. You look at it. You're like, oh, great. Well, I want to add this. Or I want to add that. Great. Let's add it. Let's put it in. Let's do this. Let's do that. And then before we even start recording the episode, we're talking about the episode before we record.
Right.
So we might get on maybe a few minutes before, or we got on at 8:15, and we just started a tangent and started talking about, okay, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about first? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? That's the number one behind the scenes thing that I want everybody to know about, is that we actually put in a lot of time. I actually made this outline at work. So, and I spent 5 minutes during my lunch to be able to make the outline and then send it to Robbie.
Right.
So the fact is that we actually do a ton of planning. It may not come out to be the way we want it to be. Most of the time it does, and it's okay. But we do a lot of planning, not just on the outline, but before. During, sometimes Robbie will text me. He's like, "Oh, I got this really cool thing I want to." Great, do it, man. Add it to the outline. Say it during the show. Great. A ton of planning was done during all of our guests, especially Jamie Rice, because we knew, and even George. I think a little less with Kyle, because Kyle's kind of like, "Hey, let's just do, man, yeah." So it's one of those things where, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's all good. We had stuff written down for that episode too, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where we were a little bit more prepared for Jamie, because we really wanted to not just. I think the river stuff was kind of off the cuff in talking about stories, and we mentioned that. But once we started getting into the hockey stuff, we had questions that we wanted to ask him, and you had very specific about Fenway and about very, very specific. How did you end the season? How did that work out? And blah blah. And about COVID.
I was about to say that was one of the coolest things about that, was because sometimes coaches will kind of like be very cagey when it comes to like the sort of behind the scenes and stuff like that. But he was very open
He
about
was.
like
He
about
was.
that whole
He said he was going to be too.
yeah, about that whole process and stuff, which
Because
is
you
really
asked him
cool.
when he came on, and again, he came on before we started recording the episode. He came on with us, started talking about what we were going to talk. And Robbie actually asked him, he said, is it okay if I talk about, I remember you asked him about, how he had to stop the season because of COVID and stuff like that. And what was up. You asked him if it was okay to ask him about that.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, sure. Ask me anything you want. So we actually do prepare a lot before we actually come on the air with you.
Yeah.
So that's really what I want to make sure people understand is that we actually spend, this is our baby. We spend a lot of time with, diapering and feeding and making sure it goes to sleep.
That's quite a picture.
What was that?
What the hell is that?
Oh, again, one of those things that just comes to the brain and kind of comes out. And I was saying to myself, I'm not sure if that came out the right way.
Yeah.
It was
classic. It was classic. I think the thing for me behind the scenes that people I think don't understand is like, I mentioned earlier how we film this a lot, sort of live, quote unquote. We really try to do as little editing as possible, but sometimes it's unavoidable, especially with the technology that sometimes likes to be difficult. And I'll give people a few examples. So I'll sort of do a little timeline here. When we first started recording this episode, we were using this like voice recorder app that you had on your computer, and then we would just save it as a file and then upload it straight to SoundCloud, which is great.
And then we put it on Facebook.
Yeah, we put it on Facebook, and then I share it to Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff.
Right.
So then, then obviously the situation now, with social distancing and all that, COVID happens. And so we were kind of forced to adapt a little bit because we still wanted to make the episodes. And so we sort of tried out some different things. I think the first sort of in COVID episode we did was you actually were on the phone. I was using FaceTime audio on my computer, and then had iMovie open and was recording it.
How many different things could we possibly try that day?
So what happened was we recorded, and I think something happened, like my computer broke down or something like that, and so we had to go all the way back to the beginning. Then we recorded. We get through a full episode. I go to put it on, or edit it on iMovie or whatever I was going to do with it, and the file just was not there. Like, it did not export. It did not do anything. It was gone. It was like almost like it never happened. So we had to do it a third time, like the next day or the next week or something like that. So that was frustrating. So finally we found Zoom. I will say this: Zoom overall has been great for what we're trying to do, because it has enabled us to obviously continue to do audio, which is sort of what we started out doing from the beginning, but it's also allowed us to expand, like I was saying, into video, which has been great.
Awesome.
To be able
to get on another social media.
Absolutely. The problem with Zoom is Zoom can definitely be a bit touchy at times. So to give you two prime examples, one is sometimes Zoom.
Wait, don't tell them about the mystery episode.
Okay. All right.
You can tell them about that, but don't give.
I will do general.
That's a mystery. That's a mystery episode.
I'm doing generalizations.
Okay, that's fine.
So in general, sometimes Zoom will kind of like freeze the computer, so like shut down while in the middle of we're filming an episode, and then you have to come back. The good news is that the recorded footage that you have stays saved, so you're kind of able, you can kind of edit the two pieces together, despite the fact that it's so annoying. And then sometimes, it just refuses to download, or you make a mistake and accidentally delete footage or something like that. So I mean, there's just always.
Oh, Robbie, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to show you the this is actually a picture I took.
This is an example
of
our frozen in time moments.
Frozen in time moments. We don't know what Robbie's doing right here, but all of a sudden he freezes. And I was like, hello, Robbie? Hello? What's going on, Robbie? What's going on? And I thought I could hear him for a second, but no, I couldn't. He was done. He was gone. But this is a photo right here. It's actually pretty funny. Let me try to get a little close up of that a little bit. Not really like.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of get the gist of it, folks. Yeah. No, it's true.
It's just Robbie. It's just him. So every time he freezes, I take a picture. So I'm gonna start posting those pictures.
And I think the one where I was frustrated the most was the iMovie situation, because literally to record for 2 hours and then just have it not show up. And I'll just to do it all over again. I was just like, you gotta be kidding me.
Absolutely.
But Zoom overall has been very, very successful for us, and has been very, very helpful for us, despite some pilot error, so to speak, that we won't really get into. But it just
it happens because technology is not hasn't been perfected. But this is a way of us being able to, get our show out there on a different level, on a different social media.
And also just continue to do it during, these times where we really can't get together.
Yes, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. It allows us to be able to continue to do the episode, even if we can't get together and do them.
And it's been really nice just to, there we go. Sorry, my fan, I accidentally switched my fan on, so I had to switch it back off. There we go. So
thank you very much for telling us that.
Behind the scenes,
Yeah, and we are talking behind the scenes, right?
Yeah. It's been really nice for this show, and also for On a Couch Talking Sports. We've been doing our episodes virtually through Zoom as well. So it's just been it's been very helpful, despite some growing pains and some headaches with it, but overall it's been very helpful for us as we, continue to keep the episodes rolling out, while also, like I said, expanding what we're able to do technology-wise.
Absolutely. I think it's been, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that happen. We do a lot of things in the show. We have a chat that we go through, and what we do is it's part of our show. It's part of our show every week, every time we do the show. And sometimes you'll hear words that we write down in the Zoom chat, and Robbie just wrote words. And sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they have absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. Sometimes it's like a funny word that Robbie might say. Like earlier, he actually said minute, secondly basis. I don't even know what that means, but it was pretty funny. No,
I just randomly typed the word bananas just now.
Sometimes it's a random word. Sometimes it is just something that comes up. Sometimes it's something funny that Robbie says, and I like him to say it again. But that's what we do. So if you hear words during the show, that's what's coming
You're
up.
You're not going deaf. If you hear words.
If you hear words, we're actually speaking about sports. If you don't hear words, that's a problem. If you don't hear words, we have a behind-the-scenes issue. If we're just on and we're, I guess, and there's no sound, then that's a problem. So we've obviously had a very serious issue that we didn't know about, And that doesn't happen often, thankfully. But yeah, so we
Knock
have
on
that.
wood.
Yep, we have that. And we also, the behind the scenes is really important because
Also,
we
with the
spend
video,
a lot
you
of
get to
time.
see sort of behind the scenes into like sort of our sort of arrangements here. Doug, I know a lot of times likes to put up his sports stuff in the background or river stuff in the background. If you've been watching our episodes, over video, you've gotten to know my lovely bedroom abode here very well. So it hasn't changed the past few months, but yeah, it
I would like
is
you to move something around to see if somebody actually, and we'll have a contest to see if somebody actually can
subtle
tell.
differences, yeah.
Yeah, subtle difference in your room and
Or just
see
even
if
you and I, just like trying to like sort of
yeah,
move things little by little,
like in different positions or something.
yeah, just to like see if the one just like move small things to like to see if the other one notices.
Well, as you can tell, I did move something into the shot tonight versus other nights to
Uh,
add to my Red Sox blanket and my Patriots Patriots
Celtics,
pillow.
yeah,
Right, my
Celtics,
Patriots,
yeah,
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 Celtics blanket, my dad's, and Celtics blanket, very nice. And
yeah.
we're representing all four teams here. I got the Bruins up here. So yeah, that's kind of. I mean, can you think of anything else behind the scenes? Oh, we do text back and forth too.
Yeah.
During the Jamie Rice interview. Oh, no, I'm sorry, during the George interview. George was just all of a sudden he just went on this tangent,
Right.
and he just started going and rolling. And I wrote Robbie. I actually wrote him on the Zoom chat, and I said, "Look at your phone," because I knew that George could see the chat. So I didn't want him to necessarily see what I was about to say. So I said, "Go to your phone," and I had texted Robbie, "Just let him roll. Just let
Yeah.
him go.
Oh yeah.
Let him go. Let him talk," because that's what George is at his best. So we do that also. Let the good times roll, as Robbie says on out there.
Yeah.
Let George roll.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Let him roll.
Let's roll.
So yeah, so we do use our technology for behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
So as we start
yeah.
to kind of wrap up here, anything else just in general, can be about anything from the first 50 episodes that you would like to discuss as we sort of, like I said, sort of start to wrap up episode 50 here.
The only thing I can think of is that we do have, which we talked about earlier, we do have a mystery episode that is out there, or maybe it's not. So there's a mystery episode that's out there, and if you guys can find it, hey, all the better to you if you can find it. But there is a mystery episode. It's one of my favorite episodes, and it's one of those things that is just kind of out there. So see if you can find it.
Or maybe it's not out there.
Maybe it's not. But we decided to throw a little mystery into the Sports Blitz and to see, mystery. Absolutely. So if you can find it, that's great. If you can't, interesting.
Yeah.
So, just try to look for it out there. But, that's the only thing that I can really think of just about our episodes and about our 50. We haven't done the final thoughts yet, and I have other thoughts to talk about. But other than that,
I'm getting there.
I know you are. I was just making sure that you knew that it wasn't my last.
No, I know. I knew.
Oh, the other thing we do is typically on our little outlines, we actually sometimes, most of the time, we have our final thoughts on these too.
Yeah.
We know what the person's going to talk about.
Yeah.
So we have those too. So that's how far we go. And I love the fact that we plan. I think planning is really important. Planning is important up to a point. I think we discussed it just recently, Robbie, and something else that came to my head is the fact that we plan up to a point.
Yeah.
And then we decide, okay, you know what? Let's stop planning because I think we're doing too much. Let's plan. Let's make these little outlines, and that's why it's called an outline. We make an outline, and then we discuss. Throw it out there to discuss. So I think that's the best part of this is that we're not so stringent about, okay, we're going to talk about this. And in the first episodes, we were like, okay, let's talk about this with the Celtics and this with there were 5 things that we wanted to talk about, and we were very specific about those things. What about pitching for the Red Sox? Let's not talk about them now, but I'm just throwing it out there as something that we talk about.
I'll talk about them. Nope.
I didn't mean to say that.
See, you bringing it up now, and now I'm starting to get riled up, and then it's just gonna roll over here into my final thoughts.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to do, Robbie, is get you a little riled up before the episode was over. I think what I'm trying to say is that we're not so stringent on the outline to be able to say, okay, we're going to talk about these 5 things. If we don't get to all 5 of those, that's fine. We don't even put them up. We say, okay, no, Celtics. And we may put a couple of topics on there, but then we start talking about Celtics. And it's kind of a round robin. It's a free-for-all. You're right there? Oh, come on. That's a good one.
Why?
No, I said free-for-all. I said round robin, and you didn't write them on the chat.
I was thinking about it for a second, but I was thinking which way to go. I was trying to think.
It's fine. Round robin. Thank you. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have.
Well, another perfect segue into the final part of our episode, which has been going on for the first 50 episodes. And we'll continue to go on, and which has become a staple of our episodes, and that is our final thoughts. And so, Doug, since you segued us into this, I'd like to start with you tonight, giving us your 50th version of final thoughts.
My final thought tonight has to do with our show, because that's what we're talking about. It has been an absolute...
Really? We're talking about our show on our show? That's pretty crazy there.
We're not talking about on the couch? Oh, I thought we
were talking about that earlier.
Wait, where's Kyle? Is he under that blanket? Oh, okay. Show without a show. Hey, like that. Bad title for a show there. My final thought is that it has been an absolute pleasure the last 50 episodes to be on with you, Robbie. It's been an honor to be on with you. It's been a great ride so far. I want to continue the ride because I think it's fun. It's something that I think is just awesome, and I think we have some great plans for the future of the show. Right. We have some great guests that we've already we're starting to schedule, and we're starting to get in there, and I just think it's going to be really fabulous. I think we're starting to grasp a little bit of an audience too, which I'm very excited about. I'm hoping that grows. I'm sure it will with our format and how we do things. But it has been a pleasure to you and Kyle and all the guests, George and Jamie, and all our future guests that we have. But it really has been a pleasure, and I'm glad that we're doing it. And happy anniversary! And let's keep this going.
Absolutely, couldn't have said it any better. So my final thought, kind of, because we are the sports blitz, so I did kind of want to throw one sort of current sports-related thought in to this episode, and that is that the Boston Bruins finally won a game in the bubble today. Doug's rocking his Bees cap. They defeated Carolina in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference quarterfinals. Double overtime. Yeah, this morning a game that was really supposed to be played last night at 8 p.m., but due to the
12th overtime,
epically insane 5 overtime game between Tampa and Columbus was postponed from last
Did
night.
Tampa win that game?
Yeah, Tampa did win the game.
I know who won. It's just like, who cares? Who cares who wins? It was just.
I just wanted to be done with so we could actually start the Bruins, and of course the Bruins ended up getting pushed by 12 hours. But the Bruins did end up playing. They finally got a win in the bubble. It was a very exciting win. Patrice Bergeron scored the game winner, so I was just very happy that the Bees got their playoff series, their playoff run off on a good start. Hopefully they can keep riding and keep the good times rolling.
Next game tomorrow, 8 o'clock?
Next game tomorrow, 8 o'clock, yep.
Let's hope Rask is in net. We'll see about that.
Yeah, who knows who's going to start with
I know it was a two overtime, but I think what Cassidy said this afternoon was the fact that he's pretty much thinking that Rask would be in net. And the reason why is because typically sometimes they have to travel, and they don't have to travel anywhere.
They don't have to travel.
So they can actually get a good night's sleep. The game was over fairly early.
Yeah.
So they can go and relax and get their treatments and have dinner and relax.
And then they have the whole day pretty much tomorrow.
Yeah.
Before
exactly. Exactly. So I think Rask.
We hope before the game starts.
I know. Who knows? Do you know they pushed back the games tonight?
Of course they had to. Games tonight because
exactly they had to.
By the way, apparently in the other Toronto bubble games today, I think the Capitals lost, and then in the nightcap, the Islanders beat the Capitals, and then currently the Flyers are beating the Canadians 2-1 after 2 periods of play. So
good. We don't like the Canadians.
No, we don't like them at all. But I did want to say as we wrap up here, obviously I echo Doug your sentiments that it has been awesome doing these first 50 episodes with you, whether it be in person or now kind of remotely as we've been doing. It's been a lot of fun. I look forward to every week or every other week or whenever we're able to get together to do this. And I can't wait to see, by the way, what we are going to do down the road as we keep this going for sure.
It's going to be fun. All I know, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a great time. What I do want to say is also, I want to say thank you to our fans. I want to say thank you to our fans who, whether you've been supporting from episode, all the way back since episode 1 till now, or, if you're just joining us in the past few episodes, or even just this episode, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We definitely
send us show ideas.
Definitely. Yeah, we definitely would love to hear from all of you, hear your comments, hear show ideas, all that good stuff. But like I said, we just very much appreciate, your support and we've loved making the show, and we can't wait to continue to make this show as we go along, and we're gonna keep making things better and just keep riding the road as we've been doing for the first 50 episodes. So
and let me tell you, Robbie, look for down the road. Look for we got guests lined up. We got more games. We got more great stuff down the road. So tune in.
Yeah,
tune in, definitely. And you'll really enjoy it, just definitely. Like we do.
Absolutely. So that's going to do it for episode number 50 of the Sports Blitz. Looking forward to episode 51, where we will dive back into some more sports talk and all the good stuff that you've come to know and love with this show. As always, that's Doug over there. I'm pointing over to that box. I'm Robbie. And like I said, thank you so much for joining us tonight for episode number 50, and we'll see you for episode number 51. See you, everyone.